And I'm Serena.
And we're
Fantastical Costumery.
Today we're talking about the red Satine dress from Moulin Rouge that I wore to C2E2. One thing I always loved about that movie was the red dress she wears. It's very big and dramatic, and so I always wanted to make it, and so it was fun to be able to choose it for a cosplay.
To make Satine, we purchased a red bridal satin from Fabric Wholesale Direct, black satin, and black lining. The skirt was made using the Truly Victorian's trumpet skirt pattern, which I will link in the description below. This was a tip we took from Satine's video here on YouTube, where she also made this cosplay. I cut out and serged all of the pieces without making any modifications to the skirt pattern. Okay, we got the skirt all cut out and serged, and now we're gonna put together the shell of it. Hopefully this won't take that long. And after the shell, we got the lining with the ruffle and the waistband, and then we can move on to the bodice. Here's the first try on. Seeing the first pieces makes me really excited. This skirt flares out and features a 6-inch train. I wasn't sure if this would be enough of a train since in the movie her train seems much longer, but I put it to a poll on Instagram and everyone said the train was just perfect as it is. Woo! Yep, I'm using my zipper foot. Do not judge my laziness.
Currently hemming at 10:30 at night, because when else do we do stuff? Time to put a hem in my skirt. This is actually the second time I've done this, as you can see, because I forgot to put in my horsehair braid the first time. So we are gonna do a little trick that Serena taught me when she worked at David's Bridal, which is where you sew it once. We just rolled once, and then you sew it all the way around a second time, and that's to get a nice little rolled hem. On the second time we go around, we will put in the horsehair braid, and hopefully that'll give the skirt a nice fullness. So here we go. No! I made it all of 1 foot before my bobbin ran out. Ugh. All right, time for the horsehair braid. Look what happened.
The needle hit one of the threads and pulled it through and snagged it.
It got fudged up.
Shit. I didn't hear that.
The needle snagged the horsehair braid about 7 more times, so if anyone in the comments has any suggestions on how to make this not happen, please let me know.
As much as I wanted a train that is as long and glorious as hers is in the movie, I didn't totally trust people at the con to not be stepping on me all day, so I decided to bustle it up. I put a button on the back of the train and made a little thread loop so I could kind of bustle it up during the day while we were walking around a lot. And in fact, I didn't even bustle it up enough. People were still stepping on me. We had to pin it up even more at the con, which was so disappointing.
You're in the security line and putting the safety pin in there.
Oh, it was horrible. No one was looking where they were going.
So I created the bodice for this cosplay and actually draped this bodice because we want it to be as most accurate as possible, so I ended up draping it.
And it's got lots of weird panels, so there was no really existing pattern for it.
It wasn't too bad. I'm going to begin the process of draping Satine's bodice, Moulin Rouge. I'm just going to use the photo references I have on Pinterest, and I'm going to start by doing just half of it and see how it goes. Okay, let's go. So as you can see, I've been creating each piece panel by panel and going in and draping the fabric over the lines that I've taped. And then anywhere that there's tension or we're pulling, we clip to the line to release that tension. And then once everything's smooth up against the mannequin and you can see the lines clearly, I'll go in and trace those lines to create the pattern piece. So now I'm going to go through and clean up all of the edges of the pieces and add seam allowance and trim it down to prep it for the first test fitting.
The first fitting left us in a pretty good spot. I had to take in the strap a little and take down the neckline, then I felt ready to cut into the fashion fabric. Then clip and press, and it's time for another fitting.
So now we've serged all the lining pieces and we're going to sew them together. I had to lay them out again because I couldn't tell which was which. So now I know which is which. I can pin them together and sew together. Yay! I don't know where my scissors went. There's been a lot of times in the past and I made these bodices with a ton of panels. And it was all the same color and everything, especially with the lining for some reason. When it doesn't have like the sides are both the same, I would get very confused at which panel was which, and I would end up sewing it together wrong or out of order. And I'm like, why doesn't it fit? I'm sitting there struggling, trying to figure out what the heck I did wrong, which panel pieces were wrong. So now I'm really careful to make sure I line them all up with the original pattern piece so I know exactly what is what. So, you know how I was talking about how I accidentally sew things together wrong when it comes to the lining because it's like the same on the other side? Well, turns out I sewed it together wrong. And I was doing it wrong while I was talking. So now we're unpicking the pieces and I'm gonna flip it around and hopefully do it the right way. We'll see how long this takes. One of the biggest problems we faced when I was creating the bodice was how to make it stiff enough but also hide the structure that was underneath. For satines, you can't see any visible like stitching lines or anything like boning sewed into the front, but there definitely is boning in there. So,
and you also were concerned about using fusible interfacing, then you could see the glue through it to the front.
Yeah, it was so tight and supposed to be so smooth and stiff that I was worried if we used a fusible, it was going to pull weird and you'd see it iron. Very strange. I decided to go with sewing the boning to the lining on the inside. I got to keep it like ½ an inch below so we have room for our seam allowance. And then we stiffened the bodice with bull denim, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we cut out bull denim and stitched that into the panels and stiffened it that way and then sewed the boning into the lining. The hardest part of doing it was all the piping on the edges. To kind of like hide that black lining, they put piping on like every edge.
Which was my job to make all the piping. So while you were making the bodice, that's what I was doing, cutting out long strips on the bias and then sewing it with my zipper foot with cording in the middle. I ended up using too big of cordings. That was my mistake. So it's a lot more visible and bulky than I would like it to have been, but you live and you learn.
I know when I originally flipped it right side out, the lining, it was a bit bulky and you actually had to hand sew the lining to the straps.
Look at all this beautiful piping that I made and then you're sewing in.
So beautiful.
Oh God, this is so scary.
And then for the eyelets down the back, satines were red, and they did theirs by like sewing red thread around it. We just did nail polish.
We need red eyelets, and they're too tiny, they blow away with spray paint, so I get to paint them with nail polish.
In addition to putting boning on each seam, I also put a piece on each side of the back to stabilize where the eyelets would go.
And then I'm gonna fold it in like this, and then over top of the lining. I'm gonna tuck these sides in, and I'm gonna sew down that way, like I did on this side.
After putting the red eyelets in, I also made a simple modesty panel and hand sewed that in so you wouldn't see it from the outside.
So onto the final part was the bow, and the bow on the back of this dress is kind of the big showstopper of it for me. You know, the rest was pretty simple, but the bow was like the wow factor. I'm drawing a 3/4 circle. Now I'm gonna make the tail from my butt to the floor, which is about 42 inches. Probably should not be doing this directly on the fabric, but
Why not?
Okay, there's our new shape. What do we think?
I think it's better. Yep.
And I had a really hard time with this for the same reason we had a hard time with the bodice, of I didn't want to use anything fusible because you'd see it. So I started with sewing in bull denim just like we did for the bodice, and it gave that stiffness I wanted, but it was way too heavy. So when I ended up actually attaching it to the skirt, it pulled it down, and the bow kind of deflated on itself, right?
So the dress was almost done. I thought I'd finished the bustle, and then bad news, I put up there and it looked like absolute poop. We're gonna attach it with these 2 snaps, right?
But then it hangs wrong.
It looked like a Christmas bow, which is not what we're going for. So
I wanted to hang from the top.
Yeah.
And kind of come down a little bit, but then maybe still have some snaps for support.
Yes.
And then you didn't like how it's hanging here. You looked at the pictures and it looks like hers is less creased, like kind of more open.
Mine's just collapsing and hers is a lot more like,
poofy.
It looks like an open flower. Hello my friends. As you saw in the last video, we had some problems with the bow on the butt of the Satine Cosplay. The denim we used to interface it with is just way too heavy and it does not have good flow while it's hanging up there and it's pulling the butt down. It's just a big issue, so we've decided to tear it apart and try again. I'm kind of halfway into one here, so we're gonna tear out the denim and try putting horsehair on the outer edge as well. We're gonna see if that does the trick. I don't know if this is gonna work, but it's 2 days till the con, so this is the best idea we have. We're gonna make it happen, and if it works, great, and if it doesn't, So here we go. Okay, more bow adventures. So I didn't catch me actually sewing this because I wasn't totally sure it would work out, but I'm gonna show you what I did here. So I took the 3/4 circle and I folded it down. And then what I did was I took the folds and I kind of cheated them up a little. So they were laying all flat like this. And I cheated them up a little, pinned it into place. Right, kind of like that, so you can see how that creates a shape there. Pinned them flat and sewed it flat. So now it's got this kind of wrinkle sewed into it. And so then when I put it on there, I'll sew them together in the center here. Well, so that'll make the top one shorter and the bottom one longer, and we'll hopefully get some nice floof here. Moment of truth. Oh, I think I did good. Oh, I think
That's gorgeous.
I think I did really good.
Yeah.
Crap! Oh, I'm so excited because the first one was so ugly. Eee! All right, now I gotta figure out how to attach it, which is the hard part. Yes! So I ended up sewing in horsehair around the bow and just having the fashion fabric in the lining and then horsehair sandwiched in the middle. And that ended up actually being perfect. That was exactly what it needed. And I think it turned out really well. I'm really proud of it.
And then you attached it with snaps, right?
Yes, I made it removable. Why did I make it removable? I don't know. I made it removable probably so that'd be easier to get on. Oh, and one thing I learned that I'm going to do differently for the next con is I just had it snap on to the back of the skirt, but it is kind of heavy, and I found that not only did it pull the skirt down so it kind of popped out from under the waistband, but I also think it would pull on the fabric over time. So next time I wear this, I'm going to find some way to, I don't know if I'll like attach a tape to the waistband or if I'll attach it to the bodice, like some way where it needs to support the weight a little bit better. And here is the finished dress. Okay, and that's the whole video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video,
Please give us a like, subscribe, or comment.
and with that, I'm Kira,
And I'm Serena.
and we're
Fantastical Costumery.
Bye!